Hey everyone, it's Friday, which is our bonus video day, and Roger's going to be making one of these, which is a
DL44 heavy blaster pistol.
So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing like a generation game style. Roger's the expert, I'm the idiot, and we're going to prove to you that anyone can make one of these from these materials, and probably for under £5, is that right?
About that, yeah.
Excellent. So over to Roger.
Right, if you know anything about the making of Star Wars, they used a lot of proper guns when they made the weapons in there. Han's blaster was made from a Mauser C96, and I found these toys in a pound shop and thought they'd be ideal to convert to Han's blaster pistol. It's not exactly one-on-one scale, slightly smaller, but it is good enough for a replica just to build on your own. So we started off with the Mauser, pound shop. I found this waterproof padlock. We're going to be using the outside of that for some detailing on the gun. Some permanent markers. I'm not going to do any drawing with them, but they're going to be part of the viewfinder on the top. Got some very strange looks, but some mascara. Basically that part is going to be used for the barrel. Some little cell batteries, that's going to be used for detailing. And some glue sticks, which we're going to be using both the top and bottom for detailing on the gun as well. So as you can see, we are going to have to make a couple of modifications to the barrels being shortened so we can fit the flare eliminator or whatever it is on there. And we need to take this section out, which is the firing mechanism for the air darts. So we'll start by doing that. Right, so first we're going to mark on there how much we're going to take off. Take about inch and a half off if you want to mark your one.
Do you?
Not too much.
Bit too much?
Bit too much, yeah.
Bit less. There?
That'll do, yeah.
Excellent.
And we can make our first cut. So using a hacksaw, just cut into
Hands down, whoppers down.
there we go. And it doesn't matter if it's slightly off, this is going to be covered by one of the glue stick parts anyway. So to remove the firing mechanism, you need to pull it out and hold it while you saw it down. There you go.
You hold it. Always alright, chop your arm.
That's it.
Kaboom!
Kaboom!
Excellent, that was a lot quicker.
Right, so the next thing we're going to do is block up this hole using a bit of plastic card. So we're just going to mark off the line. While you're doing that, I should just use a straight edge, straightish edge, just to cut a line across there.
So basically cutting a square, are you?
Yeah, yeah. We'll get one dimension and then
Okay.
across the top one. Just cut. Once you've got your piece, just mark across where the top is going to be. Once you get the first score into the plastic, just run the knife over it a couple of times.
Okay.
And then it should snap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is purely a cosmetic piece just to hide the hole on the back. Once it's painted up, it will fit in with the rest of that. Once you're happy with it, dab a super glue and then just place it on to cover the hole. Just hold it a few seconds and there you go, hole covered.
I hate super glue.
If you need some additional sanding, just sand it once it's stuck down. That should be fine. Okay, moving on to the next bit. We're going to take these parts of the handle off because these are going to be painted separately to give it a wood effect. So just take a knife and ping them off. Right, this bit we'll take the glue stick. We're going to be building up the front of the gun. So one for you.
Okay.
Take the lid off. And this bottom part, this kind of shaped edge, is going to make the end of the barrel. So we need to cut that off. There you go. So those two parts together are going to give us the detailing from the front of the barrel. But what we will need to do is we're going to need to enlarge this hole so that it just slides over the top. And the same with this one, just widen the hole in there. So to do that, we're just going to cut down into it.
Like a cross shape.
Like a cross shape. So a good knife will go through these quite easily. You don't have to force it. So we're just going to cut the bulk of it out, joining up the cross shape that we've made. So we can take a sanding stick, give it a bit of a curve, and we're going to sand that round until it fits over the barrel.
Going right to the edge with that?
Yeah, you can do, yeah. If you look at the circumference of it, it's almost to the end.
Alright. How's that? More?
Yeah, that's fine. Once you've taken the bottom bit off, we just need to cut about 1/2 inch of that off. So if I show you with one of the other, about 1/3 of it, and that will give you the ring at the end of the barrel. Just make sure it's not too uneven. As long as it looks kind of even, it's not too bad. So once you're happy with that part, just slide it over the top. We're not going to glue it in place yet because we've still got to add this part. To do this part, we're just going to slice off. Got a natural edge there. We're going to cut down that edge like so. Mind your fingers while doing this. Just take that part completely off. We'll clean that up a minute, and then that will fit on over that part. And there is one other little part on this. We're going to have to drill a hole. So because we've got a little piece that comes out the bottom now, we're just going to drill a hole for it through this, just so it can sit in place. Got a little hand drill here. As it's plastic, it should go through quite easily. There you go. So we're just getting the spacing right on this, and then we're going to start gluing it down. So we're going to leave about inch and a half between the top of that part of the gun and where we're going to have this. We'll just add the two bits together, and then we're going to super glue them in place. You can see there's a little bit at the end there. That's fine. That's going to be hidden by the muzzle. Put super glue around this part. The capillary reaction should take the glue into the little gaps, and also we can just stick that part straight on top. We want the little hole directly underneath in the middle. This seam line here will give you an indication of where the centre is for that hole. So now it's time to put our mascara on. Lee?
Thank you.
And basically all we're going to do, this can be quite messy because obviously it's still got makeup in it. We're going to take out the whole of this black part inside, which we can do with a bit of cutting, a bit of cajoling, some pliers, swearing, you name it.
Nice.
It's just so that we can get into the...
Ooh, the whole thing's come out.
Oh, then lucky you. That's what you want. Mine didn't.
It's like a little Christmas tree. Can't you do yours, Raj?
No. I'm going to have to go the long way around. So we've taken the lid part off the gun inside. This is going to form the end of our muzzle for the gun. And this has got holes drilled into it, so we're going to make a straight line down the middle and mark off where we're going to put the drill holes. So you just want one line down the centre first of all, and then what we're going to do is we're going to follow these lines round. As on the finished one, there's quite a few holes to be drilled in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lots of holes. So 8 lines we're going to have to do. So the best thing to do there is just go straight across. That'll give you where your 8 lines are going to come from, and then just draw them on, keeping them parallel with the line that you've done. So there you go, you should end up with 8 lines going all the way round. Right, so if you fit the nozzle in,
Yep.
it should fit in nicely into the hole
yeah.
you've already got there.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
It does.
And then just make sure it's straight and just put a line all the way around. Again, it doesn't have to be accurate, you just want to see where you've got the holes drilled, because there's no point drilling any holes in this part. Right, so we want 6 holes in each one. So we're going to space out the 6 holes between this line and the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we put one there, So that's going to be where we're going to be drilling each of the holes. There we go. And as you can see, we're going to have a whole line of these going down all around. And they're pretty straight. They don't have to be 100% straight, but as long as it gives the impression.
Cheers!
Okay, so all the holes are drilled now. Took a long time using a hand drill. You can use an electric drill if you've got one. It'd probably be a lot quicker. And what we need to do now is we need to file these down, get rid of all the burrs on them and on the inside as well. So that's what we'll do next. What I'm doing is just running a small file in each hole. As you can see, once you file the inside, some of these get blocked up. What we can do now is we can fit this in. That's small enough to actually fit inside the barrel, so we can use that to hold it in place and glue it. And what you need to do, again, use these seam lines at the top or the bottom to match up with one of your lines of holes. So we can glue that in place now. Just putting glue around the bottom there, getting it into the barrel part and lining it up. Just give an all-round check to make sure you've got it correct from all angles so it doesn't look wonky. And there you go, that's the iconic muzzle to his blaster. We've got the padlock, and we're going to take the bottom off, which is just a cover for the key part anyway. And then we're going to cut this in half and peel it off. These are the bits we're going to be using to do the detailing around the magazine. So we just need to cut this away here.
So when you're going around shops, Roger, are you always looking out for these type of things that can be used in other ways?
It's like the bean cans for the film. It's bits that hold rubber and pencils.
Okay.
Were the right scale to do like some empty bean cans. And it's the same with all this stuff. I mean, once I saw the gun, it was like, well, how can I turn it into it? Because you know the basic structure is there.
Yeah.
So you look at pictures of the gun for reference, and you find there's a little bit of detail in there. The angle of this muzzle part, these bits around the magazine, and you just keep an eye out.
Yeah. A model maker's brain.
Yeah, basically. It's seeing things in what people might consider tat, or you know, things that are used for other things. Before we add this to the magazine, we need another piece of detailing on this side. And what we're going to use, where we cut off this part of the lid with the glue stick, we can use that as this part of detailing there. So we're just going to stick that it's just over halfway up the middle and slightly to the right, and this will give us our basis to cut these two pieces. So there's two bits of detailing, top and bottom. Right, so we need to balance this out. There's less of these notches at the top than there is at the bottom, and we've also got to come around this shape as well. So we're going to cut this to size. So I'm going to break it into two pieces. So I think 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the large gap at the bottom. So we're going to cut just under this fourth ridge there, straight across. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just use that line as a guide. So you've got your two halves, top and bottom. And putting that over there, you can see we're going to have to cut around a little bit. So we can use a pen to make a mark on it, where the two parts of the circle are. And that's the part we're going to cut away. You can always tidy up. That still needs a bit to come off, but you can see we're starting to get the shape of it. test fit it. Just have a look from above. Make sure that both of these are around about the same distance into the magazine.
Floor.
Again, just check visually that you've got things straight on there. And there's the first bit of detailing around the magazine. This bit actually comes out a little bit, so we're going to need to put a bit of spacing padding underneath, so you get like a two-tier effect. So we're going to use a piece of plastic card, just cut to shape, and this is going to be hidden so you're not going to see it. Just to kind of step up the bottom part of the detailing. So once you've fitted the bottom part, just mark it again for the cut. That looks like I've got it right first time that time, so we can stick that on now. Okay, so now we're going to start building up the other side of the gun, this mount for the scope at the top. So we're going to construct this out of some plastic card. We need a nice straight edge for the cross piece. And then we're just going to cut this out. Just need to score it a couple of times. It should just snap off. So then we've got our nice straight edge to start the build of the housing of the scope. And this will sit across, slightly raised, so that the scope can be added on. And the second part, we can use that as a template.
The bottom bit.
The bottom bit, yeah. And then we're actually going to build this structure onto it,
Okay.
which is shaped, as you can see.
Yeah.
So we'll do a free hand of it.
Yeah.
So if we mark some just quick measurement lines in.
Yeah. Curve it to the outside. Yeah.
But we can do a straight edge up and then curve it off. Careful when doing the curved parts.
Yeah. I'm starting with a straight score.
You can just move it. Okay, now we've cut out the basic shape. We can check it for rough edges and also any irregularity between both sides. We can smooth it down with a sanding stick. Same with this inside, that's not too bad actually, but obviously it'll need a little bit of sanding just to take the rough edges off. Right, so we're going to use some watch batteries now as spacers to start putting this structure on, because we need to lift this away from the main body of the gun so that the scope comes up and across. So we're going to place it around about there like that. glue that into place. Just centralise it. To build the platform up for the scope, we can use a couple of lolly sticks, put them together, and that will form the basis of the scope holder, which is offset on the pistol. So we just glue 2 lolly sticks together.
Glue those together?
Glue those together. Okay, now these ones aren't rounded, but the ones Lee's got are rounded. I'll file mine into shape, but you want a rounded end on each end. I'm going to cut it to just past where these 2 bits finish. I'll file that down to a rounded shape there. Just give it a little bit, maybe ½ inch either side. So that's the shape I want.
Like that, Rog? About that much distance?
A little bit more, touch more. And the same on the other end, just draw a rounded thing.
Saw the end off and then file in.
Right, so I've rounded the ends of that, just gives it a nicer finish. And this would have been metal on the original gun anyway, but we can utilise wood, cardboard, anything we like when we're building models. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stick this into place. It wants to be slightly over to one side. So with the super glue, thank God, because it's an offset scope.
Oh, you mean it's in the middle?
Well, no,
but
it's slightly more
to one edge.
To one edge.
Okay, right.
All right. And again, just try and get it central. And you want to keep this until it's set. Right, so we're going to cut this to size. Now we've got it.
And the longer size going at the front, is it?
The shorter edge will go at the front.
Shorter edge.
See that?
Oh, so it's more of a tail.
Yeah, so it's because even though it's offset,
yeah,
the fact that that needs to be centralised on there,
yeah,
just means we have to give it a little bit of help, otherwise it'd be too far over.
Okay.
Alright. So once you work out where it's going to go, so that's in the centre,
yeah,
and that bit rests nicely against this bit here,
okay,
which also helps keep the scope in place. Once you've got that like that, you need to mark off the bottom. Just use the straight edge to score across. Put it over the edge, Lee, so
yeah,
that you don't
yeah,
break that part off.
okay.
I've got a little bit wonky there, but that's okay, we can sand that out. And then when you're ready to, just glue it onto the cross part. Right, so we've got the main supporting part for the scope now, just built up from a couple of lolly sticks, a couple of bits of plastic card, and some spacing with the cell batteries. And what we'll do is we'll build the scope up, which will rest on this, and we'll build a couple of hinges for it to go across. And then that's it, virtually done, apart from a few small details.
So we're taking a quick break. It was basically sweltering in here. We ran out of time. So now we're back in the studio to complete the Han Solo gun. What's the next stage, Rog?
We're going to be building the scope, this part. What I didn't mention earlier on is this is the New Hope version. In Empire it was a much shortened scope, and this was more silver. So this is a New Hope version of the gun that we're building. So we're going to work on the scope today, get that on, and then get these details on as well, and then go on to painting.
Brilliant.
Okay, so we're going to start building the scope. The original pens that I got, which were these ones, were a little bit too big. So I've gone and got some chunky markers, which are a lot thinner and suit the purpose a lot better. So we're going to have a couple of those each. So we're going to dismantle these now. We're going to keep the lid on. We'll glue it on obviously because it's got this slight slope which is needed for the end of the scope. So we're going to keep this on. Take this part off. Glue 2 bits together so we've got a long length to play with. That sounds
You
right.
You've always wanted a long length to play with, haven't you?
Yeah. And then we'll cut it down to size. So we start by dismantling these.
Use your super strength from your mascara days.
Use the pliers just to take the nib bit out.
Oh, there we go.
There we go, that's all rubbish. Okay, now you've got nice two clean edges that we can put together. So we're going to super glue those together. So make sure you get it flush all around. It's meant to be seamless. So just give it a quick sand around just to make it one continuous length. These are lids off of hand sanitizer. We can use these. The end of the scope is larger than the rest of it, so we just needed a slightly larger size. Right, the cone that we have here, again from a pound shop, it's a nice size. It fits on the end of there and it will bridge the gap between that which is too small. So we just cut enough off to give us a continuous tapering for the scope. We're going to put that on there as level as we can. And that's where we're going to cut. The thing with this bit is you've got to try and get it as straight as possible, otherwise the whole scope's going to look slightly off. So we've got the three components of the scope now, and we're going to glue these together. So we'll start with this end piece. What I've done is I've sanded down the parts where we're going to glue, just to give it a little bit more to adhere to. So that's that part, and the same on this part. I've sanded it down a little bit. Hopefully. And there you go. So that's the main bulk of our scope. Right, so we're going to make some hinge parts and the attachments for the hinges. These were lolly sticks. You can use like coffee stirrers, any piece of wood, because we're going to put little rounded edges on it so that when the hinge comes around it settles on top. Just cutting these to size a bit. Give them a bit of a sand, try and get the same size for both. So just cutting the ends off. This is going to form the basis of the bottom of the hinge. We're just going to glue them directly onto here, and we're going to space them so that they're almost in line with these two lines here. And those bits will be hidden by the scope as it comes across. Right, so now we need a couple of strips of plastic card, and they've got to be about the same width as the wooden parts that we just used for the bottom of the hinge. So I'm using that as a measurement. Just making a mark across, and then we'll cut that. It doesn't matter if it's slightly wider, you just don't want it smaller, because we're going to round off the end anyway. So we need two of these. And they're going to round the ends so that they conform to the same shape as the end of that. So that's one, and that's the second one. going to find the point where it gets to the end of the scope frame, put a little mark on that. That's going to form the basis of where we're going to curve this around to go around the scope. So we're going to make a nice big bend in them. As you can see, when they go on there, this will circle round and hold the scope into place. So we start bending it, but we're going to be gluing this directly onto the scope, so it will hold down. But if you start bending it first, it will glue a lot easier onto the plastic. So we're almost ready to put the scope on. So we're just going to put this across to get a quick measurement of where we need to cut, which is there. Again, this has to be a pretty precise cut. So give yourself a little bit extra in case it is slanted, and then you can sand down. That's not too bad. A little bit of sanding, that's not too bad at all. So that's the right length now. We can start working out where we're going to put these around. So bring your gun back in. Work out an ideal position for where you want it to go. Ideally this should just come to about the end of the detailed part at the beginning of your nozzle. So we're looking at about there. So again, we can mark these two places on here. And we can start sticking the hinges down on it. So you see we've got plenty of this to go around. You can even bring it round completely under and shape it so that it's more secure, which I might do this time. If you do it this way, you can still space these out afterwards. Just glue the two ends together here. Clamp it down till it sets. I'm just cutting some strips here. These will form the basis of a bit of detailing on top of the scope. If you've got a thicker card, that's great, but if you haven't, then you can build it up from smaller parts, like I'm doing here. So just take a measurement off the original one. It should take about 3 lengths of this to make the part we require, which we're just going to glue together like that, sand it into some shape. So after sanding down, that will be the basis for the detail on the top of the scope. Right, finishing off this detail here, we're going to use 2 larger watch batteries and just put them on to make it look like another dial. So it's just gluing them on. There you go, that's the complete detail now. And the top of the watch gives a nice kind of patterning on it as well. I'm just going to cut the excess of this off and then file it down to that rounded shape. So now we're going to put the scope onto the gun, and because we folded it over and glued it again, it's going to make that offset angle for the scope. So line it up with the 2 parts on top of the scope, just glue it on. Some glue around those, just a little bit of glue just to hold those in place on the scope. And you can put this detail on. Which kind of goes in line with the front of the magazine. We're just going to glue that in place. Make sure you get it centralised. 3 batteries we're going to put where we've put the 2 holding this together. So we're going to line these up. Put it slightly offset so it looks like it's got a different function from those 2. These obviously move it from side to side, that one moves it up and down. So it's almost all the detailing done on this now. On the original one I had to cut out from plastic and make these out of plastic before I came up with the idea of the batteries. This original detail was from a seal that you pull through, and like a cable tie thing, but we haven't got any of those, so we're going to be using the lid off of a superb glue. So we're just going to cut it off. It's obviously far too long, so we're going to cut it down to shape a bit. Just push it into the hole that we drilled earlier. Hold it into the glue sets. There you go.
So we've come to the end of the build.
Yeah. Just going to move on to the painting. Yeah, you've done well there.
It was a very enjoyable process. It's great being taken. Great being taken step by step through you and seeing your ingenuity using kind of ordinary objects.
Cheap objects.
That's right. The reference from the original blaster and adapting all these little things, and they all add up, don't they? There's sort of visual
not long
illusion.
before it actually becomes, you know, the iconic blaster.
It's a great little toy, isn't it?
It is,
Or
yeah.
Cosplay item.
Yep, it's nice and light.
And how much would you say that costs for all the individual bits?
Well, it's £1 for the gun, £1 for the
Padlock?
mascara, that's 3, batteries 4, 5, no more than 6 or 7 quid. That's if you include the spray paint that we're going to use, which was £1 in the pound shop as well.
Excellent.
So yeah, for under a tenner you get a pretty decent replica of Han Solo's blaster. Cool. Let's go paint! So we've got some cheap spray in a pound shop, matte black, and we're just going to give it an overall coating with this. Give it a good shake. Doesn't matter whether you buy expensive paint or cheap paint, it's all the same sort of stuff. Just remember to keep your distances when you're spraying so it doesn't fall up. So start off about a foot away for the overall, and then come in close when you
Detailing.
do the detailing. Yeah? Just brings it all together.
Wow. That's really impressive.
Right, so we're going to paint the handles. First thing we'll do, just got a normal pin here, and I'm going to make a hole in the handle, round about in the middle. I'm just going to slightly widen it to make it look like a recessed screw hole. And I've got some very small nails there, which we're going to put in as screws to hold the handle in, or look like they hold the handle in. Right, so we've got a number of Citadel paints here. They're all acrylic. I've just bought a selection of browns, some wash, and this is lead belcher, but basically it's like a gun metal, which we're going to use once the paint's dry on the gun, just to put some simulated scratches and dinks and whatnot on it. So we're going to make up the main colours, I think, with this brown, and then we're going to graduate these other colours into it to give some highlights and some lowlights. So basically, with acrylics you can water them down with water, obviously.
So you water them down,
you can't water them down with milk. You can water them down with water.
Condensed milk.
Yeah. But all I'm going to do is paint it on.
Okay.
And being acrylics, it will dry very quickly. Just want
Won't
we've got
this
some
be-
water here, because when we feather in the different colours, the water should give us some playability with the paint, so we can mix them in. Right, so we're done with that one, unless we come back to it in a little while. We're going to go in with a darker brown now,
Going in with it.
but we're only going to get a little bit on the tip of our
Ah,
brush.
yeah, it's important, isn't it?
Yeah, the little bit
Qualities.
on the tip of the brush.
Just fleck it on.
Flick it on, and then once you flick some bits on, brush it into the lighter colour. See how it's merging with the lighter brown?
Yeah.
We're only dip washing the brushes by putting in water and then wiping the excess paint off, because we're using all browns, it doesn't matter too much. But once you've used all the colours, then give your brushes a proper wash. So Knoll oil, as Citadel call it, is a basic black wash, and what this should do once we put it on there is it should go into these grooves and darken them to give a bit of perspective between the tops and the bottoms, so that you've got a middle ground and a background that's darker, and then we'll put a light brush over the top to give a foreground, so we've got 3 stages of colour in one piece. But we're going to do a dry brush, which is basically not putting hardly any paint on at all.
Okay, I'm good at that.
So just get the tip of your brush with some paint on it, and then basically brush most of it off. And then what we do is we're just going to lightly flick the brush over the piece, and
Okay.
what it will do is all the raised edges will pick up the small bits of pigment that are on your brush still.
Okay.
It's almost imperceptible at first, if it was still wet. You'll start getting that contrast between light and dark. It's not a huge effect, but it's a subtle one. It just gives it an extra little bit of distinction between the colours. And then the last piece would be to put these two in with a bit of super glue.
So you're putting the super glue in the hole or on the pin first?
In the hole, just a touch should do.
That's the one. And we'll get the mini pins. Have you got like a mini?
Just going to put a little bit of Knoll oil around it. Some wash. Okay, so we're going to do some final detailing with some dry brushing, with some gunmetal colour, or lead belcher, as Citadel like to call it. And we're going to use the same process as we did for putting the final dry brushing on the wooden parts, which is to take some of the paint and then get rid of most of it on a tissue. And if we start on the edge around the handle here, just lightly flick the brush apart, and you can see you just get like that edging. Want to make it look a bit more worn, so it's been pulled out of the holster so many times, because Hahn shot first. And basically anywhere where a lot of handling of the gun would be, it would be more heavily weathered. like the magazine would have a lot of handling, the trigger, all these edges, and then the muzzle we're going to give an all over coat with this as well. Use the rest to highlight edges and wear and tear. And again, with this rigid piece here, when we put some wash onto it, that will accentuate the grooves. Okay, so there's the finished product. Our finished guns, painted and whatnot. Let's compare guns, Lee.
Here's the one I made. I mean, they are fairly similar. Roger's obviously the expert in this area. Tried to follow his instructions, gave me very clear instructions. Gone slightly askew in some areas, but it adds to the sort of homemade, sort of renegade nature. And I'm actually really happy. And the paint job, when you spray everything, really unifies the two guns. And then the washes afterwards, and the little brush marks to give the scraping.
It brings it together, doesn't it?
It's really effective, isn't it? So that was really enjoyable. Thank you, Roger.
You're welcome, mate.
What a great little masterclass.
Yeah, it just shows you that anyone, you know, can do this. And you know, if you do go slightly wrong, I mean, that's still, if you went and showed that to someone, I think they'd still be blown away by it. You know, I think you've done really well there. I'm really pleased. So it's great fun. It's really sort of therapeutic making the models. Good day in the studio, good 2 days in the studio. 2 hot days.
Very hot days. And this comes at the end of Roger week, all week. This is the final, this is the bonus video. So I hope you can follow this at home, and we'll be showing you lots more model making with Master Model Maker Roger. So please subscribe to our channel, help us make Lonely Stick of Dynamite. Okay, so if you want to win one of these guns that we've made today, then we've got a competition for you, which is answer this question about Han Solo's gun. What was the gun originally made from? What military gun was Han Solo's guns based upon? Now, if you want to win the gun, then, sorry, I'll go again.
Go from so if you want to.
Yeah. So if you want to win the gun, then answer the question, put it in the comment section of this video, and we will pick out the correct answer. You must subscribe though to be eligible. Please subscribe, answer the question, we'll get all the right answers, and then we'll pick out a winner at random, and you will be taking home one of these blasters.